Hi everyone, so it's finally time. I get to mark this journal as finished. I actually started this April 14th and I'm going to mark it finished June 22nd. Woohoo! Okay, so I'm going to do a complete flip through. I'm going to try not to talk too much about every page, but I will give like little comments here and there. So this is a Maddie page. There are several Maddie pages. There might even be like a Logan and Maddie page in here. I encourage my grandchildren to create art, and if I'm working in my journal and they're with me, then if they want to make pages, I let them. And then I just, I preserve most of them, but there are some that I do kind of paint over, but not all of them. This was just me playing with watercolor and some acrylic paint. Another Maddie page. Maddie is certainly not afraid of color, is she? Although she does like to just mix up a dark muddy green or a dark muddy purple. It seems to be her two, colors that once she gets to the point where she's she doesn't like to rinse her brush as much as I try to get her to. So, but she's definitely learning. So this was again just a drawing that I did really super quick, and then just a little bit of watercolor and some of my own personal journaling. This originally was a Maddie page, and I did a quick study of Freya, which was part of the Goddesses class that I did, so that was just a study for it. This was just me working with acrylic paints for the first time in a very long time, and I think I did a partial YouTube video for this called Single Dahlia. This was one of the faces that we just finished. It might seem strange to you, but I worked in this book from the back to the front, to the largest degree. So the more recent work is on a lot of the pages in the front. But yeah, this was one that we started in the Gulf Sprite Live, and then I think I finished it in a YouTube video. This was one that we did the night that we were talking about hair and accessories, and I had drawn her hair out and didn't like part of it, so I turned this part into like a little wraparound hair tie thing. I also decided at the end that I wanted her to have earrings, so I just took the eraser and erased out and then just painted that gold. This was also from the drawings that I did for that class. So this was the one where we used a stencil to kind of give us an idea for starting with the hair. And this one I just opted to go ahead and just leave it black and white. I really like it just like it is. I do tend to do that sometimes when I do a lot of detailed pencil work. And if I start getting into the shading with pencil and stuff, then I sometimes don't want to paint them. This one again, I think a lot of these were like 3/4 face practice, and then we did interesting clothes and hair and things like that. Same thing here. I think I finished, I can't remember if I finished this one during the class. I think I finished this one during the class. This was just one that I was working on. This was when I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my cat, which I don't think the cat's in this journal. I think it's in the other journal, the one that I did a YouTube video on, and then more 3/4 face practice. This is a lot of the kind of stuff I really like to do. If you look at my planner pages, they have a lot of this where I'm like creating borders and different things like that. So this kind of looks a lot like my planner stuff. Here is where I was working with you guys on the little ways to use just a handful of little things you like to doodle and turn them into little patterns. I think I drew this one separate just for my own art journal work. Do a lot of just my own art journal work. This one too, I think we used as using ink pens that will bleed out to create patterns. And this was just my own personal page, I think, that I did beforehand, if I remember right. I'm not sure. This one I definitely did beforehand. This was the one where I was kind of, you know, doing this, and it made me think I should teach some of this. This was, I can't remember if this was just an art journal page. I don't really remember exactly. Some of these I recorded, some I didn't. So this was actually the final Freya piece that I used, that I painted for the one of the goddesses in the goddesses class. This was, Jill had reminded me about the, what are they called? Those elegant writer pens. So, like some of the outside edges, this part here was done, I think, with the elegant writer, and then all of this was done with them. And it just says for Jill because Jill had reminded me of it in one of the streams when we were talking, or maybe in an email, I don't remember. And I was thinking of her when I was doing this, so that's why I wrote that. This was for one of my collaborative videos. I think this was the monochromatic one. I don't remember, just for fun, teaching. Sometimes I just can't remember. This I did on a Gulf Sprite Live, I think. And this one I had the drawing and I showed it to you guys on Gulf Sprite Live. I maybe started painting it, but then I just finished it on my own. And I was really concerned about how this would turn out because of the color combination, you know, using the pink, excuse me, using the pink to do the drawings. All the drawings in this were just done by just straight watercolor. There was no pencil work in these squares here. And then I kind of came back in and put darker pink over it, and I was afraid I would lose everything, but I was actually quite surprised with how nicely this turned out. And I love just that tiny hint of blue that's here and a little bit in her face. Really kind of sets this whole thing off, I think, gives it a great feel. More just practice and play on my own. This one I did the drawing itself, just of the girl. I did this during a Gulf Sprite Live, and I think I did the lips because we were talking about different facial features, and I was trying to sort of demonstrate all the different kinds of, I mean, this isn't all of them, but a lot of the different kinds of lips that you can do. This was just done on my own, mainly. This is, I was actually playing with the idea of doing this for the monochromatic, because I was able to match the color of the pencil to a mix of watercolor, which I was really happy with. This was one that I probably would have continued working on this, but I just, you know, I just want to finish this journal out. But this was one that had, you can't see it now, but it had like really ugly, to me anyway, funky hair. And I painted over the hair and blended it in a bit. And then also this had the Fine Tech Gold, and I painted colored watercolor over it, and I really like that look, the effect that it got. I think I just painted this. I don't think I actually used this for anything. Same thing for this one. I absolutely love this girl. I'd like to revisit this concept with her hair. She reminds me, like, she looks like the Sprite version of Pippi Longstocking or something. These were more just personal drawings of my own. This is an ode to Dr. Seuss because of the types of trees. This was a little bit sort of a spin off of another artist's work, so I've not really promoted it a lot. This was where I first kind of started to develop the idea of that cat, and this, you know, the original idea, it doesn't look anything like the artist by any means. You would never know who it was or anything. I did my own thing, but I definitely got the idea of doing a cat like that from another artist on Instagram. Again, more just creative play. Same thing here. This one is a really close copy of another artist's face. So again, not something I would promote or, you know, put out there as my own. More just creative play. Same thing here, same thing here. This one again was another one that I didn't actually put any paint on it. It's all just colored pencil. This one I did paint into the background, but the faces, that's all colored pencil. This is all colored pencil with the exception of the yellow that's right here. Everything else is just colored pencil, no watercolor. This is kind of a combination, watercolor and colored pencil. Same thing here. Same thing here. Same thing here. See, like some of these, they're all just me playing around and just, you know, working in my art journal, not for anyone else's purposes, or, you know, not to teach or anything like that. This is another Maddie page, just a drawing I was doing. I really liked the way her hair looked. This one was kind of a weird one. I was looking, I think the artist is Caitlin Hackett or something like that. Anyway, she puts these like sideways eyeballs on all kinds of things like cats and wolves, and it's kind of creepy, but I just wanted to play with the concept, but I, you know, wouldn't claim it to be 100% mine, because it's not my idea to turn an eyeball and put it sideways on that forehead. This was just me playing. This actually, I think, was the drawing that prompted Laura C. to ask me to talk about how I do that more sketchy pencil type of shading where I'm not using a paper stump. Again, this is similar in the pencil shading, or, you know, like the scratchy kind of pencil work. That's and same thing here, although this one I did go over it with watercolor. I love her. I love a ton of stuff about this particular face. These two are probably my most favorite out of the different things I've explored in this journal. This was my goddess for the goddesses class for Matt. This was just playing around with faces. Probably I was teaching something for Gold Sprite Live. I can't really remember though. This was my study for Matt. This one, I drew these to represent and did a quick little live video to represent the colors that were in my 4-color palette. And the video, like, it never archived, so I was never able to use it, so I did a second one further on. Here, this is the second one that I did, and this video I was able to post. But these were the 4 colors that I was using for my 4-color palette. So Pyroline Red, Opus Pink, Lemon Yellow, and Phthalo Blue Green shade. This one is probably my least favorite in this entire book because I don't like this gold hair, but I never came back and did anything else with it. This was a study for, I think this is Celine, I can't remember for sure. This was a Golf Sprite Live video that we did. This was just one I did for fun, but I think I painted this shirt on here on a Golf Sprite Live. And this was just me doing my thing. These were from my goddesses class. This was the final piece. This was the study. Just working in my journal. Just working in my journal. So much of this is like that. Another Maddie page. This was me playing around with different ways to show how to draw different flowers. I can't remember if I did this on camera or I really just don't remember if this was just, you know, self-play or not. This was the final for, no, this was a study for Celine as well. That was just a study for the goddesses class. Another Maddie painting. This is titled 2 Pikachus. And this one's titled 3 Pikachus. Maddie likes to work in series. This was one that I was frustrated and struggling with the concept of creative block. This one I just finished, and you'll see a video for this in Golf Sprite Live next week. This was just me playing around, and all this color that's in her face was kind of already there, and I just kind of drew a face over it. This was a final for the goddesses class. I forget, I think this is Diana. 2 Pikachus again. This one was one that I started on it, and it looks very you know, to me it looks very disparate. This has one feel, this has a completely different feel, and even trying to kind of carry the colors over, I never really quite brought the two together, but I love this part of it. I mean, I love the whole thing, but like I love this part of it. I could see that as a painting, and I look at this and think it looks kind of like a landscape. But that's as far as I went with it. 4 Pikachus opening a door. This one I just did a little bit of creative play just tonight to put in some of this patterning, but I'm done. I don't want to you know, go any further with this particular journal, so I'm you know, calling it done. This one, I think we did part of this when we were teaching. I can't remember because I've got these eyes here, and when I see myself, you know, where I've done stuff like that, I'm usually doing that because I'm demonstrating. This was a mask and stencil that I was creating for the Diana goddess, and I was testing it out. This was a weird one that I was thinking about The Walking Dead, and I drew the weird hair on that girl, and that hair really freaks me out, so I never look at this page. This was just me playing around, and I think I was talking about I think I was talking about just making patterns. I can't really remember. Here I was actually just testing out my watercolor palette, as well as playing around with what you can do with the distress inks, not the distress oxide, but just the old-fashioned regular distress ink pads, and different things you can do with it, and how they're so water reactive that you can really have fun playing with them. And here I was testing out a liquid watercolor paint that I bought that I really don't like. I actually gave it to my grandchildren already because I didn't care for it, because it doesn't have very much pigment. It's a really cheap brand. The camera's like really freaking out on it for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, might just be because this is so dark. And then this is one of my the first little cute of these birds that I ever tried to draw. I drew that on here. And I think I was testing out those color erase pencils too. So that's it. That is the end of this journal, and I am very happy to have finished it. I actually do not alter the covers of my journals anymore. I used to, and I reached a point where I kind of was looking at my shelf one day, and I thought, you know, I would like it to have a more cohesive look to it, so I stopped doing that. And what I do now is I create a dust cover made out of like scraps of like magazine pages, stuff like that. I make a dust cover even for these wire bound ones. It totally works. And so all of my journals now just have a dust cover, and on the spine of the dust cover I can write out what journal it is, and you know, I usually put the dates. And I've actually thought about, because I do still have every one of my journals, I've really considered going through and actually giving them numbers, so volume 1, 2, and so on. I may do that in the coming months, you know, next month or two, and if I do, I'll photograph it and show you and tell you how many completed journals I actually have. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you around the internets.